Already, I think we can get started. So, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. And thank you for joining another great session today. So, in this session, we're going to talk about one of the greatest and best innovations that we have released this year and in the recent releases for sure, regarding ITOM visibility for sure. And we're going to have a special guest, as you might read from here already. So it's very exciting to have you here. Thanks all for keep participating to these sessions, because we see that the audience is just growing and growing. We receive great feedback, and we have amazing presenters and amazing panelists and amazing supporters that are making sure to answer all of your questions there. So thanks all, and we really appreciate this. Now, for those of you that are not familiar with this format, this series is part of the Live on ServiceNow webinar series, and specifically, it's the ITOM Visibility and Cloud Accelerate Academy. Now, I mentioned Live on ServiceNow, which is a great and successful webinar series that I really suggest you to enroll to, because not only because our events are part of it, but because they will really help you to implement our solutions, speed adoption, and achieve value faster. If you want, you can scan the QR code that you see in the slide, or alternatively, you will find a link in the chat. Now, housekeeping items, and you may be familiar with these. Please, you should be already muted upon entry, but in case you're not muted, please make sure you are. And we have the Q&A feature that is dedicated for you to ask questions, and we have amazing experts with us that are going to make sure that you will be able to have your doubts and questions properly addressed. And whenever you're asking questions, make sure you can introduce yourself. We would really appreciate who you are, to know who you are and what you want to achieve from this webinar as well. We're going to have a couple of polls in this session as well, which we would really like you to participate into. And then the session is being recorded and will be shared on the ServiceNow community forum. And after the session ends, you'll be prompted to fill out a short survey. And that really means a lot for us, because we can really understand better what are your needs, how has the session been for you, if it really helped you achieve what you wanted to achieve. And yeah, it basically helps us keep improving. So we would really appreciate that. Now, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Gian Mario De Luigi, and I'm part of the amazing outbound product management team here for ITOM, and I'm specifically covering ITOM Visibility and Cloud Accelerate. But together with me, we have a superstar today, once again, which is Sri. Sri, please feel free to introduce yourself.
Yeah, Sri Subramaniam. I lead the ITOM inbound product line of business. Over to you, John.
Thank you, Sri. I don't know if it's just me, but the audio was a little bit low. Maybe you can check it. Maybe your settings are okay. But yeah, thanks for introducing yourself. Sri is leading the inbound efforts for the ITOM visibility product development. So specifically, sorry, for product management. So it's a privilege for us to have him here with us today. And before we keep going, safe harbor notice, we're going to talk about potentially some forward-looking statements today. So just wanted to make sure that you all are aware, and we can proceed. Now, in today's session, as I mentioned earlier on, we're going to talk about a huge innovation that we brought to the market, which is the ability not only to run patterns from the ACC, but also to basically run service mapping with ACC, which is a huge, massive milestone that we were able to achieve. But first of all, I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of why are we talking about service mapping in first place. Now, you may have been familiar with this representation here that we gave of the level of service context awareness they can achieve for your infrastructure. We have the basic layer, which is the technology layer, where you can have more awareness about how your actual infrastructure is, and so having more information about your customer data center or your private management, public cloud, and all the infrastructure piece that are residing on top of that. So all the middleware, database, web servers, etc. And that's achieved with ITOM discovery. Then if you want to have a business-aware CMDB or an application awareness into your CMDB, you need to gather application context. So you need to better understand how the different pieces of your infrastructure are impacting your application services. And that's achieved by mapping your application services. And that means that you need to deploy service mapping. And then you might be familiar with the CSDM. And basically, that's where you really understand the overall business context. So how your application services are eventually impacting your business. So you can go from the deeper level of the infrastructural piece to the actual business impact. Now, I just want to, for those of you that are not familiar with discovery itself, I will go really quickly through the main concepts around discovery and the dependency mapping and the four main steps of it. Basically, it all starts with the so-called Shazam probe, right? Where we do the scanning phase, where basically scanning the network and see which ports are open, so to find the active devices and within the defined IP ranges that we want to scan. And after that, we'll be able to gather the device type information and even additional information about the version or the OS information itself for the technology-specific questions. And that's called the classification phase, where we're actually leveraging the classifiers. And that will determine what we'll use in the next two phases, we can say, of discovery, which is the identification section, where we gather more information to determine whether we already have that CI in the CMDB or not. So if a new CI will need to be created, and we need to gather even more information to be able to eventually reconcile that information to the CMDB. And then we have the exploration phase, where we gather, again, just additional information on top of that. As an example, what is the software that is running on that particular CI, running processes, TCP connections, etc., that would allow us also to create relationships then between the different CIs. This is in a nutshell what discovery does and how we get the dependency mapping view. So we know how the different devices are communicating with each other, so how they are related. And then after we discover our infrastructure, we need to be able, as I was saying before, to be aware of, okay, how does that infrastructure piece relate back to the application services that we have running on top of those very same elements of our infrastructure? And that's when we have service mapping that can be done in multiple ways. So whenever you have good tagging policies across your infrastructure estate, you're able to leverage the tag-based service mapping. You're basically leveraging the existing tagging estate with the possibly proper policies that have been pre-configured, so that you have reliable tag-based service maps. And that can be achieved via the tag-based families and CI tag categories. And that's essentially very easy for you to achieve value. That's a quick way, let's say, to get to the service mapping once you already have those policies. So you're leveraging what you have already. In case you're starting from scratch and you are collecting the right amount of data, so you're collecting the TCP and basically traffic connections data in between the different elements of your infrastructure, you'll be able to perform the so-called ML-based service mapping. In this case, what we want to do is to solve the big issue that you may encounter when you need to define your entry point, when you're trying to define and to map your application services. And instead, we'll automatically provide you with ML-based service suggestions. And basically, you'll be able to get to new maps or to add to the existing maps that you might have created, just in a very simplified way. And then whenever you instead have very mission critical application services that you want to make sure that are mapped properly. And for whatever reason, they are extremely important for your business. You may take a slower approach, a more manual approach, where you really need to have a almost surgical approach to service mapping, and that's the so-called top-down service mapping. The top-down service mapping is a slower approach that allows you basically to really have a deeper understanding of the service, application service, and of the service mapping itself. In this case, you'll need to start from an entry point, which can be a URL or connection parameters, whatever you want to define as your entry point. And you'll be creating an application service record based on that very same entry point that is being defined. Then you have the host detection phase, where you are basically performing the discovery or capturing via discovery the sufficient information about the CI, basically the CI details for mapping purposes. And then you will have the CI identification phase, where you'll be identifying really the applications that will be running on the discovered hosts, the ones that you just discovered. Based on the information that is provided from the entry point itself. And then you'll be able to actually do the connection discovery. So you'll find the configure relations for all these CIs that you have discovered, checking the outbound connections. So as you can see, it's a more surgical approach that is, again, recommended for just more mission critical application services. Now, I know that there are a few questions, and I see that thanks all. I see that Bill is actively answering some, and we have Steve as well, and Sri that are giving the contribution there. So thank you very much. And I just want to have another quick look at why ACC, basically. We're going to be really quickly going through what ACC is. It's basically an agent that you will install either on your endpoints or in your DMZ environments. It's essentially an alternative to the traditional discovery method that we saw before that basically allows you to discover all those environments for which you don't have the right credentials, you can't access them for some reason. And again, that can be your cloud, cloud VMs, or you can have endpoints that you want to monitor for whatever reason. And basically, you have the agent client collector that really is an agent that you deploy and you install on that very same endpoint, on that specific cloud VM, and provides data back to your ServiceNow instance. Now, the ACC is useful in many different use cases and helps different teams to achieve value faster. Specifically helps IT teams for live asset view use cases, or even playbook automation and virtual agent conversation use cases. AOps, we have ACC that can be deployed for monitoring, to collect metric data, or even log streaming. And then for software asset management use cases, it's possible to deploy the agent to collect software usage and end user asset and really reclaim unused software, as an example. As a result, or for SecOps use cases where you have security incidents investigation that can be performed thanks to the agent client collector that is sending back the proper data. And so this is a very good view of how many use cases really the agent client collector can help us with. But primarily, we're always starting from discovering, from collecting data from those endpoints, from those environments, really. And now we have a few polls, as I said today, and this is going to be the first one. What we want to know from you is to really better understand why are you considering if you are considering the agent client collector over the traditional agentless discovery approach. Is that because you have credentials issues, you can't get your credentials, or is it a push versus pull approach that you're considering, or is it a network and firewall issues that you might be facing, or do you have air gap networks, or do you have security requirements to support zero trust? you can select all of these that apply. And I see a few of you have raised their hands. Please make sure that you insert all of your questions in the Q&A box, and we'll make sure to answer any of your questions. Now, I see that, thank you very much. I see great participation already in this webinar, which is fantastic. And I'm really excited really about these new innovations, and we're going to get there just after this poll. So yes, I'm going to give you another 3 seconds, and we're going to end the poll and see how the results are. I will end the poll now, and I'm just sharing the results. So it looks like most of you have credentials, issues to get credentials, and we have networking and firewall issues and security requirements to support zero trust. They seem like the most common use cases, but also push versus pull considerations and air gap networks are there as well. So thanks all for chipping in this great contribution, and we really appreciate it. Now, I wanted to showcase all the efforts that we put together with our engineering teams in order to really improve the agent client collector in the recent releases. So Sri has been coordinating most of this work. So please, Sri, you can add your comments on this slide.
Yeah, I mean, like agent client collector has been a huge evolution. You might have seen like ServiceNow launched ACC a while ago, and the product has been maturing over the years, where we added supportability to many operating system flavors. We introduced new security posture measures for software asset management. The agent now can collect total software usage metering on both Windows and Mac. A lot of great enhancements that was introduced. But the interesting thing that happened in the latest Feb store release is now the agent client collector officially can support two things. One is the pattern execution. The other one is support for service mapping. So previously, the agent client collector was not able to execute a pattern. And in my demo, I'll showcase some of the examples on why you need these patterns to be executed to get extended context of your application stack. So now if you have deployed ACC, now the same agent without any credentials will be able to execute all the application patterns that we are shipping through store.servicenow.com. And secondly, on the service mapping side, when you are adding an entry point like a top-down URL, then service mapping can also be fully supported with agent client collector on the target endpoints. So you're going to see a live demo. Absorb all the other content that's there in the slide, and we'll do a deep dive into this topic. Over to you, Jam.
Thank you, Sri. Yeah, amazing innovations, really. And that's a significant amount of work that has been put through all these steps. Now, what's new? We saw there what has been the product evolution, where we have a few slides to really dig deeper into the biggest innovations that we have released now. So just with the Washington release, it's finally able, as Sri was mentioning, to execute patterns by leveraging the actual connection, the existing connection from the ACC, instead of trying the SSH or WinRM or PowerShell to really connect to the system where you have deployed your agent. And this is a massive, massive innovation, because it also gives the flexibility to execute discovery patterns for both agentless and really agent-based discovery for those that are supported. And you can really execute these discovery patterns on environments that typically wouldn't be accessible, or we saw there all of your pain points that you just shared with credentials and so on and so forth. So that's one part of it. And the other part is that you can finally now leverage the agent client collector to run both top-down and ML-based service mapping. That's because the agent client collector is basically collecting running process and traffic data, and is running connection suggestions. so that you can, again, leverage and exploit the ML-based service mapping features and leverage the basically ML-based suggestions. And on top of that, you'll be able to go to the hybrid mode, we call it. So the discovery admin is going to be able to run service mapping by leveraging both agentless and agent-based discovery. That can vary on the type of environment that you're discovering, really. So this, again, huge innovation. This is supported from Vancouver release. So you can definitely make sure to test it out. And we're going to see in a moment now how it works. We also integrated directly in the service mapping workspace the unified map support. And I see a few of you are raising their hands. Please, we can't unmute yours, each single of you. We have many, many participants today, so we can only listen to you via the Q&A section, and that's very appreciated. Basically, with the unified map support, now you can directly access the combined, let's say, dependency view and service map in a new view, a new way of visualizing them both. And that's directly done via the service mapping workspace. So this is a way more innovative and more modernized experience that is going to allow you to get the best of both worlds, let's say. Which is very, very exciting as well. And also, we really listen to you. Now, many of you have been voting for the mid-server affinity for service mapping feature, and this is one of the top voted ideas on the idea portal. So if you're not familiar with the idea portal, this is a very, very useful tool for you to suggest us some enhancements or some new features. And this is the demonstration that we actually listen to you, because we have introduced the basically a smarter way to select the mid server for service mapping. We're practically leveraging the mid selection from the horizontal discovery history with service mapping, which is allowing larger organizations that, let's say, with hundreds of locations to really improve their overall service mapping posture. And this, service mapping is basically supporting this new feature from Washington release. So Washington, in this case, will be a prerequisite. But now, without further saying, we have a great deep dive session that Sri is going to bring us through. So please, Sri, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, John. Appreciate it. So we'll first cover some of the concepts, and then we'll show things in deep dive mode. Let me know if you are able to see my screen.
Yes.
Yeah. Are you able to see the deep dive slide?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So firstly, let's look at the prerequisites, right, on how to get some of these new innovations into your production environments. So on the pattern execution for Agent Client Collector, you need to have the latest Agent Client Collector framework and the visibility package that is shipped through Feb release. We do have backward compatibility support for ACC over patterns, which is primarily going to support the horizontal discovery. And once you have the Feb store release for ACC framework and visibility, have the latest pattern store app. As you know, like we have two content that we ship. One is the discovery and service mapping patterns, which is again having all the net new content, and the ITOM visibility content store app, which is primarily to have all the other patterns that was not shipped through out-of-band releases. All the patch fixes are all getting through this content. So I would strongly encourage you to deploy both the store applications into your production setup. And on the service mapping side, you need to have the new Service Mapping Plus, which is the latest code that is shipped through store.servicenow.com. Will again show you some of the latest release. But the new ACC over service mapping is supported only with Washington family release, because some of the code has to be supported in the family release code, and hence there is a dependency to Washington timeline. But we don't have like backward compatibility support. Similarly, the affinity on mid server for service mapping, it is one of the top most voted idea. that is also shipped through Washington timeline. And hence, we recommend customers to upgrade to Washington if you want to avail the ACC over service mapping feature. So that's the prerequisites. And the first step, okay, so when you install all those applications, right, the first and first more important step is to go and activate a property setting called APPL classification behavior setting. And this setting, once you activate, it is going to allow the agent client connector to run patterns. So to give you an example, how this setting looks like. For example, I've activated this setting. So in the sys property file, you would see this APPL classification behavior setting, and it has three important choices. One is off, the other one is simple, the other one is full. Off means you're not going to create any application CIs when no ACC is deployed. And an app CI is it's a category that you would see in CSDM called CMDB-CI APPL. To give you an example, when an Oracle database is deployed into a Linux server, when a PMON process is detected, right, you using the process classifier, you run the pattern in the exploration phase, and the pattern will create an Oracle CI. And that CI, if you look at from the parent class, it sits in the CMDB-CI APPL. So in a real pattern world, the pattern gets executed, but in the agent client collector world, before patterns were executed, we were still allowing customers to create a simple application shell CI based on the process classification. So in your scenario, if you're activating pattern execution, the default is simple. I would encourage you to change the setting from simple to full. And once this is done, then you may need to restart your mid server, which is again a very important prerequisite. After updating this property, the mid server should be restarted. So then the next time the discovery runs on the agents, primarily the ACC runs all the policies based on the defined intervals. And during that point in time, when the process is detected, when the process fingerprint is classified, right, then these process classifiers will start executing patterns instead of creating shell CI. So this is a prerequisite for all of you to make a note. Two things: activate the setting, make it to full, and restart the main, right? And then you will see a checkbox like with your instance name, where it will say that, hey, we are going to now run all the patterns. And in your agent client collector environment, if you have configured allow list, it is super important to go and configure the allow list to have those commands whitelisted on the target ACC. This is again a feature that is being added for security use cases. So just in case, if you in your environment, if you have activated allow list, you may need to take that allow list and then start updating some of the commands that you can activate. And you may ask me like, okay, how am I going to know what commands should I whitelist? And there is a fantastic KB article which will have a default allow list that will have at least a quick bootstrap experience. It will have a set of commands that we have already whitelisted for you. So you can use this KB article and then take some of those automated allow lists. And if you have not seen this application called Pattern Designer Enhancements, so this application, once you install, it again comes with an interesting utility called command validation task, where we will allow you to have some of the commands that can be tested over your credentialless use cases. And here is again a place like where we have a table of all the commands that patterns use. And this is another place for you to go and do research on what commands gets executed by patterns. And then you can also curate your own allow list to see what commands can be approved at the edge and at the ACC level, right, to go and execute on the target device. So this is another approach. So strongly encourage you to take the out of the box allow list that is already documented in this KB article. But at the same time, you can curate your own allow list. There are two important settings that you should be aware of. One is the no primarily the mid discovery agent command mid timeout setting, which is primarily like the max duration the mid is going to wait for the command to get executed on the target device. So I've seen customers using a mid server in some US region targeting servers in APJ, right? And you would have a long no wait time, right? You need to plan those timeouts in such a way that when mid is executing a command, the default is 60 seconds. But if you are no having a complex architecture and you have resources all around the globe, but your mid is centralized, then you may need to reschedule some of those timeout settings. Similarly, there's another setting which is primarily the max execution time, which again, like an ACC can wait for default 60 seconds to run a command. If this is another no variable that will give you more control on know how long you are ready to wait for the agents to run. If the resources are busy, if the machine is like already struggling with all the CPU cycles, right? So this is another setting for you to consider if you want to wait for more times. So with these two settings, like now you're all good to go to pretty much kickstart your discovery, right? With Agent Client Collector, you install the ACC framework and ACC visibility, and now you have activated the application parameter that I showed you. So now the agent is all ready to run the patterns. And you may ask me, how do I know that ACC is being used to run the pattern? So we created a view like in the Agent Client Collector, you can activate this discovery view. So in my instance, let me go to my Agent Client Collector. Firstly, when you install all the ACC is going to register all the agents that you have deployed into this table, where you would see some of the discoveries being completed. So if I click on any of this discovered hosts, you can see in a section where like these agents are able to collect the same set of data that my agentless technology gives me, right? Where you can see all the the applications here, as you can see the TCP connections, install software data, which is super important for your software asset management outcome, running process data. And if you look at it, like we are already collecting a whole sort of good information that can be used for service mapping. So in the later part of demo, you're going to see how the ML-based mapping is going to consume this data and then provide some automated recommendations. But on the agent client collector side, like say once you know you have installed these agents, let's pick up one of these agents where the agent is installed, the data collection is all happening. But on the right side, you see this pattern logs, right? Where some of those patterns that I'm executing on this target node using agent client collector, and you can see know the logs. And in order to get this view, you just need to go and instead of default view, you can go and add to discovery view. So this way you would be able to see all the patterns that are getting executed by agent client collector. It's again going to give you more conformance that like, okay, my ACC is deployed, my patterns are getting executed on the ACC. You can see the pattern logs and you can see what commands are successful, what commands are failing. If you want to add more commands to your allow list, right? This is your methodology to do some trial and runs, right? And make that allow list much more workable model. The other thing that is very important for you to note down is so in the discovery pattern log, we added a column called executed on agents. And whenever a pattern gets executed with the help of an agent, this flag will be now set to true. So you can also do know some good troubleshooting by directly going into the pattern logs where you can just use this flag executed on, look for all the ones that are true, look for the managed IP address and see whether the patterns are successfully being executed. And the other validation that you can also do is like whenever an agent is executing a command, you're going to see this text in the pattern debugger log using ACC connection to execute a command on a Windows agent or on a Linux agent. So you would see this text, which is also giving you more conformance that when the negotiation is happening between the mid and the target endpoints, you don't need any credentials. It's automatically recognizing an agent and it's bypassing all the credential requirements. And the mid is sending all the commands that you want to execute on the target, either for horizontal discovery or for top-down discovery. The agent is executing the command and then collecting the payload and then sending it to mid, and then it get processed into your instance. So these troubleshooting steps are absolutely important. And then like a few more tricks, right, on your pattern debugger, which is again, the debug option that many of you uses to troubleshoot, each and every line of code, right, that we ship. You can now use ACC agents. If you use ACC connection, so this means the pattern debugger is smart enough to recognize that, hey, I should not wait for a credential, in order to do the debug, but I can use the existing agent client collector on the target device. It will make a connection, and then you can still troubleshoot the patterns exactly like how we have done in the agentless discovery mode, where the individual steps can be validated. You can collect a lot of more evidence whether the commands are successful on the target host or not. The last one is like primarily getting into even the mid side, right? Like where when this active session is active, then you don't have to give any mid service, because the agent already knows that which mid server the agent is communicating to. There is already an full duplex connection established between the agent client collector and the mid server. And this intelligence is already there within the platform. So we know how many mids you have, how many ACC connections are there, which mid server each ACC connection is using. So we are not going to ask you to give a mid, right, during the debug. Just use this connection, and then the magic happens. And the last one is like even when you are running certain commands, you are still like going to have detailed error, which will actually tell you whether the timeout has happened because you don't have privileges, or even if you are installing an agent not with the local system account or with some service account, and that account does not have access to certain files and folders, especially in the top-down map, right? When you want to read certain config files, you need read access to go and look for those config files, look for the connection strings. And if you don't have access, right, you're going to see those error codes on, hey, I'm trying to execute a command. My agent is trying to run that command, but somehow the ACC agent that is being executed with the process does not have access to go and read it, right? And then it uses a default timeout, and then you are going to see those failures. All those pattern debug options are all super important. So with that note, like I can show some quick demo on how this works. So when the agent client collector is installed, as I said, you're going to see all the running process. And from the process, when there are fingerprints that we have given in terms of process classifiers, you're going to see all those patterns getting executed. So in this case, if I take this agents, I can click on host collect host data. It's going to perform a collection in near real time on the target host, but you can have a simple policy that can also collect data programmatically. When this happens, when the process is detected in the exploration phase, like how you do it in the IP-based discovery, we are going to run a lot of patterns. And these patterns are application patterns, and these patterns will be executed when the agent is deployed, right? So this is again absolutely needed for your all the horizontal discovery use cases, where you have this agent client collector visibility, and you have collecting inventory data, and you're also now going to collect all the application CI data, right? In this example, like I have an Oracle mission where all the Oracle related data sets and WebLogic and all the other topology data that is needed for your typical horizontal discovery is all being collected by agent client collector. So previously we used to create just a shell CI. So now with the Feb release, right now you're executing the same set of patterns, and you'll be able to see the same set of topology that you are expecting typically from an agentless technology, right? So that's point number one. The next thing is like, how do I run service mapping, which is again a very important topic, right? So for service mapping, right, I have another environment where, no, in this example, added in simple SharePoint endpoint, like where I have an IP address and port number. When I see the map, so in this case, again, the agent client collector is deployed on the target host. So previously, we never allowed no any top-down mapping or any ML-based mapping to happen with ACC. But now with this entry point, I can actually see how ACC is able to discover the horizontal discovery CIs, but also it's able to build that surgical mapping experience. If I see the discovery log, and if I search for using ACC connection, you can actually see like from the entry point how the ACC that is deployed on the target host is able to take some of the top-down execution patterns, right? Where it is a config file-based detection, where you need to go and look for connection strings. So you need to run those patterns. And when ACC is deployed, now we know how to execute those patterns without asking for any credentials. And you can actually see this using ACC connection where the top-down mapping is able to perform the same set of data collection and perform a quick top-down surgical discovery. You may also ask me like, hey, what about the new ML-based mapping, which is again an awesome feature. If you haven't activated it, no, you can actually go to store.servicenow.com, install this application called Service Mapping Plus. And once this app is installed, you're going to see an experience workspace like this, right? Where in the workspace, you would see the Service Mapping Plus. And what it does is like, something very interesting, right? Where both your agent-based and agentless is collecting a lot of interesting data sets. Like, because in a typical service mapping, you need to give an entry point. It performs the top-down discovery from the load balancer, goes to web form, app form, database forms. So it has to build that surgical mapping experience. But in the last year, we introduced this machine learning based map where if the traffic data is already visible in in the CMDB, can we latch onto this golden data sets, analyze, synthesize, can the ML give me any recommendation? So that's how this capability was built. And all you need is like once the Service Mapping Plus is active, you can go to this application readiness checklist dashboard. You can pretty much run this checklist, and except ADME, all other settings should be active, because these are all some of the prerequisites for machine learning to look into your data sets. The predictive intelligence plugin will do clustering analysis, and then it will start looking at building recommendations. And one thing that you're going to see is like all those ML candidates. So these candidates, like where machine learning is saying that, hey, I'm automatically looking for meaningful traffic that is happening between these resources, and I can build those recommendations. In this example, there is an application that's talking to TNS listener, which I know that it belongs to my Oracle database. I can always like click on this recommendation, do a preview map. And one thing that you would see is like now with the Washington release, we introduced this new unified node map. And you need to have the latest CMDB workspace experience. And there is a simple property field that once you activate, you will be able to see this brand new unified experience node map. But in the preview map, like now you are able to see the map that can be created without giving any entry points. So you as a customer purely looking into those ML-based recommendation, building a service map on the fly. So I did like build an ML based map like called checkout services. If I click on view map, you can see how the brand new experience of unified node map no it's visually stunning. It's simple for consumers. You'd be able to use and consume this even in the CMDB workspace experience, and all the know the related changes, related incidents, and know your timeline view. Everything is all embedded, and we are making a lot of investments to make service mapping available in AIOps experience and in ITSM service operations experience and so on. So this is absolutely super important for all of you to take away. So if you are like trying to do service mapping with ACC, have the latest version of Agent Client Collector and framework and visibility, have the latest patterns code that is shipped in the latest March release, deploy the service mapping plus, and look for all the potential traffic data, run the readiness checklist, and then you can start curating some of those service maps. The other thing you may ask me is like, hey, in the ML powered candidates, all you are seeing is like a process to process communication, right? There is sometimes these are all cryptic in nature, unless like you know exactly this TNS listener belongs to an Oracle listener, right? How am I going to understand all those application fingerprints? We have also solved that problem for you. So all you have to do is like search for Discovery Admin Workspace, which is again a brand new workspace that we are building for all the Discovery administrators. It is supporting Vancouver and Washington, D.C. And once you install this app, like I've installed Discovery Admin Experience here, one of the things that you would see here is like a place called Content 360, where some of the tabs that you're not going to see, it's all coming out in the future releases. But what you are going to see is Content 360, and you will need to go and configure for this content services. It's primarily like a data sharing, where you're going to say that like, hey, I'm going to send all my unclassified machine learning clustered process that is sitting in the CMDB process cluster groups. And once you start shipping these things, we are going to send a whole set of classifiers. So if you look at it like almost like we have built a set of process classifiers based on some of the standards that we see. And the good part is like now we have a service that is fingerprinting every single process that's running on your estate. And now we will give you a better enriched topology in terms of horizontal discovery. And you can also use this to create and install software data. It helps your service mapping. So I strongly encourage you to deploy this specific Discovery Admin experience. Once you install, go to Content Services Setup, activate the the process fingerprinting and SNMP OIDs. And the good part is we are going to ship this content on weekly basis, right? A typical pattern updates comes on monthly basis, but now we are going to ship all those fingerprints to you on weekly basis, or all the OIDs that will be shipped through the same content distribution services. And when more and more customers are joining this community driven fingerprinting, we have librarians who are looking into these process classifiers. They're cataloging, and they're using the normalized publisher and product from software asset management library, and they are curating these application fingerprints. They are sending it to your instance on weekly basis, which is again an absolutely and most important thing that you should take advantage of, so that your CMDB discovery topology becomes much more comprehensive. Your service mapping becomes much more meaningful and context rich, and you have more context in terms of your software asset management use cases, where you're able to identify how many of those installed application is also running, because your CMDB SAM SW install table will give you that context of what software is installed, but it doesn't give you whether the software is running or not, right? So that running estate can be now visualized by your application fingerprinting, and strongly encourage you to activate it. And more experience will be unlocked with this new discovery admin experience. And we will do future webinars on how this brand new experience is going to enrich your error handling. Like I saw a lot of questions around like, hey, do you have a catalog of error? Because discovery errors are super noisy today. So we are applying some of the machine learning tactic to do clustering to perform analysis of what errors are super important for customers, like credential errors, how to troubleshoot credential errors. No, we are building a lot of tool chains like command validation tasks, which I again strongly encourage you to try, and then make your experience seamless. So with that in mind, like John, maybe need your help know to run the
Yep.
next poll, and then we can maybe answer some of the questions.
Absolutely. Just 1 second, I'm gonna share my screen again. I see it's here. Right. You should be able to see the poll right now. So we have poll number 2 for today, and I'm gonna share it right now, where we really want to understand. And by the way, thank you so much, Free. That was an outstanding session and demo, and we really received positive feedback already. And thanks everyone for answering via the Q&A function. We have a great, fantastic dream team today that is supporting us. So thanks all. And yeah, we want to better understand how do you want to leverage the ACC if you're planning on using it, and which outcomes are you planning to drive with it. So are you going to use it for CMDB outcomes or for software asset management and software optimization, specifically outcomes, security incidents response, IT service management for incidents, or regulatory and compliance use cases? I see a great engagement so far. So this is really appreciated. I see a lot of answers are keeping coming. So I'm gonna give another few seconds, and then we can stop the end the poll basically. Right. So I will end the poll now, and I can share the results with you all. And we can see that most of you are gonna leverage the ACC to drive CMDB related outcomes, followed by software asset management and IT service management outcomes, and then also regulatory and security incident response use cases. So thanks all. This is amazing, and thanks for your great interactions. Now, questions. I know that we had a ton of questions there in the chat and specifically the Q&A function. So thanks all for this great participation. Maybe Sri, you want to pick up some of the most important ones, some that are worth to mention here live.
Yeah, mainly like one of the no question I see is like, okay, we have multiple service mapping techniques, right? Especially in cloud, I see like a lot of questions tailored towards like, okay, I'm trying top-down discovery for cloud, right? What should I do? So what we see is like we have a lot of cloud discovery customers, and customers who are using it know our discovery even in containers with the Kubernetes Informer and the CNO that we launch. And predominantly, most of the customers are using tag-based mapping, where the strategy is to democratize service mapping and setting up standards. You can always challenge saying, okay, I don't have good tagging standards, right? That's a common theme that we see. But in the world of service mapping, especially if you are starting your cloud journey, have some good tagging strategy. We also have tag governance application that can tell you what resources are tagged and not tagged. But at the same time, I would strongly encourage you to democratize service mapping process, where otherwise you'll be having a bunch of team members and all they will do is like just do service mapping day in, day out, right? It is a complex activity. It requires knowledge on the application stack. The ML gives you some kind of an bootstrap experience with 60-70% coverage, because machine learning is again using the existing traffic data. And some of the questions we did see that, okay, what happens to passive nodes, right? So those servers will not be definitely included in that ML-based recommendation. And machine learning based experience and top-down can coexist. So you can always start with your top-down, and you can augment your top-down mapping with machine learning-based recommendations as well. So a lot of questions around fingerprints and patterns. Like, yeah, strongly encourage you to try the new discovery admin experience. Go and opt in, and maybe if you are ready to even partner with ServiceNow, right, reach out to me or Steve or John. We will be happy to have one-on-one with your org and do these sessions one-on-one, right, primarily to socialize how the new machine learning based mapping can help you to accelerate your mapping experience, how what is the pattern roadmap, right, that we are chasing for the next 6 months, and even the application patterns that we are creating through this new content distribution services, right? If you have some immediate needs, we have customers reaching out to us saying, hey, I've been audited and I need help. No, we can now do surgical file-based fingerprinting as well, using running process detection, which is again a pretty cool concept that is already available with this new experience. So yeah, please reach out to us and we can do more enablement session with your customers.
Fantastic, Sri. Thank you for that. Do we have? I see questions keep coming, so you want to check? Do we have a last one maybe that we want to address before we wrap up?
Yeah, it's like I think predominantly we answered most of the questions. So we will be publishing this webinar. Again, a quick key takeaway in this webinar is update your agent client collector to the latest Feb release. Have your store content for discovery and visibility content to latest release. Install your service mapping plus to the latest release. Discovery admin experience, and opt into content services. And when you're ready to execute the pattern, activate that property setting from simple to full, and then set up timeouts, and that's it, right? You're ready to run patterns on the agent client collector. And if you're thinking about service mapping, both top-down and ML, right, can be supported on top of ACC. And we do support hybrid strategy where you can have agentless discovery and agent-based discovery together in your environment. And we can take traffic data from both technologies, and we'll be able to process and fingerprint and provide you this service mapping experience. So with that note, thank you again for the opportunity.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you, Sri, for sharing all of your great knowledge here. But we have a great team that has been helping us throughout. So thank you, Bill Eflin, Doug Schultz, Ryan Zulli, Steve Emerson, and of course, Sri, for presenting. This was a mega team effort, and I see a lot of questions, which mean that there was definitely a lot of interest in this topic. We unfortunately need to wrap up now because we are at the top of the hour. So please make sure that you will enroll into the Live on ServiceNow webinar series with the link that we previously provided there. And we are really looking forward to see you in the next episode that is going to be held on April. And yes, so unfortunately, we wanted to keep talking to you and keep answering questions, but it is a timing constraint for today. But again, we really appreciate your time, and we ask you for just one big favor. Please make sure that you fill out the survey that you're going to be prompted at after this webinar ends, and make sure that you express all of your impressions about this webinar. You give us feedback so we can keep improving this session. But again, thank you for being disengaged. Thank you so much for your constant participation. We really look forward to see you soon. And thanks all for really presenting and participating here. Thank you.